now the new revolutionary Iran is an ally for all the liberation forces in the world. This is 1980. In the African Communist Journal, which is the kind of intellectual mouthpiece of the liberation struggle in SA, it wasn't to last. In 1983, the new Iranian leadership has grown very wary of the left in Iran and the communists and the Marxists and the Soviets. And they start rounding up the Tudeh members. These are arrested. They are horrifically tortured by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. 200 of them and their Soviet allies are executed. And one source I read is that 10,000 are arrested, party members, and detained. In the party itself is dissolved and so on. And the New York Times, on the 5th of May, 1983, reports as follows about what it says, a quote, the televised confessions in recent days by 7 high-ranking party members, several of whom said they had passed military and political information to Moscow for decades. The party members were among 70 people arrested in February and charged with treason. James goes on to explain to me that a few years later, the story is only starting. A few years later, the Washington Post revealed that the Khomeini regime had received the information to arrest these people from the CIA, who were seeking to curry favor with it and obviously thought the Soviet influence and the Marxists and the communists. So these were the ANC's allies, in their thousands being imprisoned, tortured, and executed post-1979. Come back to South Africa, and in May of 1983, South Africa's own Communist Party, a statement from its Central Committee, says that it condemns in the strongest possible terms the banning of the Tudeh Party, the rest of its leading members, including the first secretary, and it goes on and on and on about that. The confessions can only have been obtained by the use of inhuman and diabolical methods of torture. The suppression, this is the SAC, the South African Communist Party, on the Iranians that Mr. Mbalula would have you believe were their ally through this period. The suppression of the party, of the working people of Iran, and the persecution of its members represents a grave threat not only to their lives, but to the future of the Iranian. Today, blah, 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 and they carry on, and Today party members are then subsequently quoted back in the African Communist, saying which says that they were subjected to vicious tortures worse than even in the time of the Shah. Now, ANC-Iranian revolution relationships absolutely are in the gutter at this point, as bad as they can ever be. But I said the story gets even more complicated because clandestinely, the new post-1979 Iranians go and build a fraternal relationship with the apartheid South Africa administration. And that is about oil. And the details are very interesting, but ultimately, I'm going to quote something for you. A chap called Cobus van Zyl. He was a senior official at the Strategic Fuel Fund because South Africa is facing an oil embargo which threatens to bring down the apartheid state. And he goes on to say, the quote, that South Africa lived off oil from Iran through the 1980s. And essentially, without Iranian support, apartheid South Africa would have found it much more difficult to hold out as long as it did. And then, we come into the 1990s, and here is I don't know how many ANC guys know their own history particularly well. Mr. Mandela has been released from prison, and he's been invited to go to Iran in 1992. And before doing that, he consults with Aziz Pahad, who is the head of the foreign office of the ANC. And Pahad seeks advice from Mendy Msimang, who heads the ANC office in London, and says, Mr. Mandela wants to go to Iran. What is your advice? And Msimang's answer to Pahad is as follows. Recently, the Iranian regime is accused of having publicly hanged 4 people in the city of, which doesn't really matter, after peace demonstrations which have been held. These are protests against the regime, and they're hanging the protesters. He goes on to say the exiled leftist movement, what's just now left there were a few leftist movements in Iran that were all severely persecuted by the Iranians. The one in particular, the Mujahideen movement, is feeling very strongly. They've gone to see Msimang. They say the Iranian leftists are feeling very strongly against the visit of Madiba. They argue that it would give respectability to a regime which is repressive and bloody. This is the ANC's own language and terminology. So the idea that the relationship with Iran owes its origins to a deep fraternal friendship and alliance that lasted from before the overthrow of the Shah through the very late 70s and 80s and into the moment of liberation. That's not the record in the ANC's own party documents. And the truth of that relationship is in fact very different.
Richard?
Frans, that's fascinating. And this is a history that more people should know. And I just want to say to all those in the UK, those Green Party members who came out and voted, for all those people who vote for the Gaza independence, for all the Queers for Palestine kind of people, the Islamists are coming for you next. They will use you to get what they want, just as the Islamists and the Ayatollah did in Iran. They'll use you, and then they will come for you, and you will be gone. So be very careful. This will happen again. It'll happen and get closer to home.
You've mentioned to me before that there were some thinkers that you encountered in your kind of time there that had a kind of profound impact on the way that you viewed the world, the way that you viewed South Africa. Can you just tell us a little bit about who those people were and what they taught you?
Yes, I met Ian Cruikshanks. Now, Ian Cruikshanks used to be the head of Treasury at Nedbank. And if you were to go to YouTube, you'd still find videos of him giving analysis of the South African economy. And the key trend or thinking that I got from Ian Cruikshanks, and he's passed away, so may God bless his soul, is that whenever you read economic analysis, what does it mean for the average South African? And when he was like hinting on that, I was like, actually, like, yeah, that's so correct. You know, I'm like this kid that uses the taxi to come here. So when you're speaking about petrol prices and the rand, like, I need to put that in a way that relates to me. It means that my taxi fare coming to this institute if the petrol price rises, I'm impacted in that. If the rand weakens, that means like my purchasing power is also impacted by that. So it was through Ian that I started thinking, how do we pull together these links of economics and how do you relate it to the average South African? Because those are the people that drive economic activity in the country, and they need to also have the analysis and reading in order to guide their decisions. And another individual that I met there is Anthea Jeffrey, and through Anthea Jeffrey, through grueling work where she would send me to read public documents of policy gazetted by the government, and she was like, oh, okay, this policy, public policy, has good intentions. Like, it's not about the policy's intention, but what fundamentally are its outcomes. And when she said that, I was like, actually, that is actually what the School of Economic Thought has been teaching me this whole time, in that whenever you have a government or particular individuals, they have this theme that they constantly face day to day. Because we have scarcity, and what that means is that resources are limited. That's the fundamental principle of economics.
Yeah.
Each and every day, a young South African steps out of their home, they face choices. And in every choice that you make is either you go with that choice or you go against that choice. And there's the trade-off of that is what's called the opportunity cost, which is sort of the unseen cost of your actions. And if you want to see that your well-being is improving over time, you want to limit your opportunity cost and greatly increase your trade costs in terms of personal interactions with people, in terms of you finding a job, in terms of also public policy, which is even more important. And that's how you determine good public policy. You minimize your opportunity cost. And it was through that understanding, through Anthea Jeffrey, Ian Cruikshanks, as well as my other colleagues at the time, John Kane Berman as well, who was the CEO of the Institute of Race Relations. May God also bless his souls. Having this treasure trove of economic and socio-economic data over the past 100 years in the country. The Institute of Race Relations is one of South Africa's oldest think tanks. It was established in 1929, and ever since then has become quite a successful institution and actually combating some of the bad policies at the time of apartheid regime and its impact on Black South Africans, and after that, bad policies that came under the new government. And a fundamental question that was asked of John Kane Berman is that, hey, listen, we are a democracy now, come 1994. There's no need for the Institute of Race Relations. Why are you still here? And the lesson that he told me, and in his experiences of the time where I would drink coffee with him, is that, listen, the cost of freedom comes with the constant visualization of looking at the government's decisions and its impact on policy.
Yeah.
And that's what you must constantly do as an analyst. And through these particular individuals and my experiences growing up, I got inspired to actually carry it with much more seriousness to become an economist.
The DA has opened up its nominations for its various federal council leadership positions. Now, Frans, can you